Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who's already thinking about that next US men's national team roster. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I mean, that's not unique to right now. I think that was the case since like January of this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going to be getting it, I think, Sunday, September 2nd is what Brian Sciaretta on Twitter led me to believe. We're going to get deep into that tomorrow. Thursday's show, we are going to... should we do like what we hope the roster's going to be?
I was going to clarify, how are we going to get deep into a roster that hasn't been announced, but I'm with you now.
What we realistically hope the roster's going to look like. All right, so all that to come
all
tomorrow.
Goalkeepers.
23 goalkeepers.
Yep.
Today, we have some listener questions, and they are all over the map.
They sure are.
In a good way. There's no dog questions,
Nah.
unfortunately. If you were tuning in just for the dog questions, we're sorry to disappoint you. Lots of good questions, though. Taylor, we've done this a weird way. This is the first time we haven't really discussed the questions beforehand, right? So this is going to be finding out what each other thinks kind of show.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we don't, just to clarify, like, we don't ever really like go back and forth and know exactly what each other's going to say.
No, but
we have a general idea.
Yeah.
For example, the first question from Adam Ulrich, we have not discussed at all, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. Adam asks, a few weeks ago you answered a question about how you thought the USMNT would do in the Premier League. How do you think a better team, like France or Brazil, shots fired at the USA, would do in the Premier League? How would they fare in MLS?
So to give the background, I guess you asked it because you want me to answer first, right?
Yeah.
To give the background, we essentially thought the US men's national team would be battling relegation in the Premier League, right? Not guaranteed relegated, but they would be in that fight.
Yeah.
I am pretty confident that France or Brazil would be title challengers, but by no means guaranteed.
Yep,
right.
That's pretty much exactly what I have.
In those Champions League spots, they'd be one of what I guess you could call the modern Big Six.
Yeah.
They would both have a lot of depth, right? Look at France's fullbacks at the World Cup. Benjamin Mendy was their reserve left back, right? That gives them the same sort of fullback depth as most big Premier League teams. So there's a lot of quality there, right?
Yeah.
Raphael Varane and Conte and Pogba and all that. That's a top level Premier League team. Kylian Mbappe.
I would agree. I took this a slightly different way to say that for me, it's not about the personnel as much as how those personnel are utilized. And I think what we saw in the World Cup is that teams who have a clear understanding of how they're going to play, those are the ones, more or less, are the ones that succeeded. And I think that applies to the Premier League. So I looked at the national teams that have a clearly defined style and identity. That, I think, translates more directly to success, or theoretically translates to success. And I think both Brazil and France had that. So I'm with you that I think they would be up there, for sure.
By the end of the World Cup, we could definitely say this is what France does and this is what Brazil does. So I think they do really well in that sense.
I think you could definitely nitpick because you do have issues like Casemiro when he was suspended. Suddenly Brazil didn't have that kind of defensive midfield spine. Maybe that's Fred, but from what I've seen from United so far, I'm not sure he's suited to number 6, so I don't know who that would be. So there's like a few depth questions for Brazil, maybe. France, it's just more so, I think, like keeping that core the same, and then can they weather an entire Premier League season doing that?
The very interesting thing to me about having a national team in the Premier League, like you just mentioned, say the defensive midfield spot, is if it turns out that there's like a position where you just don't have that many players, you can't go out and sign someone, right?
Nope.
You could, I'm imagining, I mean, we don't know the logistics of this, right? But I'm imagining, say, Brazil in the Premier League, the deal would be that they could just call up Brazilian players throughout the season. I'm imagining it more like a national team function, weirdly integrated into the Premier League, right? So if Vinicius Jr. suddenly starts firing it up somewhere, they can suddenly say, all right, we're going to call him in. We're going to get him in there. All right, just go with me on this. Imagine that this is the situation.
Can I add an addendum? Because I like that approach. I like the idea of it, though. It corresponds with the actual international breaks. So, like, you have to have your team, but for the first one in September, you can reevaluate the way you would for a national team, and then Brazil can change their players, but then they've got to keep them until November when the next round of internationals is.
Well, let me finish, because this is the thing I'm getting to, is the problem is if you just happen to have a problem spot in your national team depth chart, you can't fix it.
You better go naturalize somebody.
Right, exactly, yeah. Because, like, so Man City, if they had, they don't, but if they had a left-back problem, they can go and spend £50 million on a left-back, right? If, say, Brazil suddenly had a left-back problem, which they definitely don't right now, because they got Marcelo and Luis Felipe, or Felipe Luis. They just have to make do. Think of England in the early 2000s. Right, I'm not saying England would challenge for the Premier League. I don't think they would. Remember, they didn't have a left winger. They had the left-sided problem.
Yeah.
That would just be carried through the whole season. They could not go and sign a good left winger to supplement their team. You've got to make do with the people that have the passports.
True, but I think you could also make the argument that it speeds up the evolution of the team. That if you don't have a left-sided player, you have to confront why don't we have a left-sided player? Is it because we're trying to play someone there who doesn't fit? Could we change the system? Could we change the approach? Could we change the manager? Yeah. And it kind of expedites all of the things that led to Gareth Southgate getting the job, because you find out real fast this 4-4-2 with Lampard and Gerrard isn't going to work.
Yeah.
We better look at other options.
I guess you get more reps and problems would be solved faster.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever these teams, France and Brazil, would do in the Premier League, they would definitely then do really well in international tournaments.
I would say so.
Because they have way more reps than any other team.
Any team that could play, even if, that US team that we talked about, if they did play in the Premier League, even if they got relegated, I bet they make it further than they have in most of the ensuing tournaments they play in, because they have those reps together. With that in mind, before we get to MLS, I have two other teams that I think would do very well in the Premier League.
Okay.
All right? Maybe controversial. The first one, Uruguay, because as I said, exactly what they're going to do. They have great defenders. They've got a very potent attack. They can hit you on the break. They can do 70-yard 1-2s. Somehow they do that.
Suarez and Cavani,
and a likable manager in Tavares. I think he's still there. Basically, they're Leicester under Claudio Ranieri. So I think there's that. And I do think I know you. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say similar to Leicester under Ranieri.
Yeah.
They use the same players a lot. Leicester under Ranieri really did stick to mostly that start. I could name it now if I had to, because it was so this is the first 11 and we're not shifting it. But I also think that's a weakness of Uruguay is a couple injuries and suddenly you've got Sturani starting instead of Suarez or Cavani, right? That would not fly on a top 6 Premier League team normally.
Oh no, we also have illegal doctors who will make sure that nothing ever goes wrong.
Illegal doctors.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. And then the other one,
from the early 2000s Milan doctors.
Yeah, of course. The Milan lab where no one ever ages and we all thought that was just natural and totally not weird at all. The other one, a bit more controversial. I think England would do really well in the Premier League, because if we're looking at this from a
Spurs would be in trouble. They'd lose a lot of players.
Well, let's say we move all to Spurs. Spurs become the English national team.
They play at Wembley right now.
Yeah, perfect. See, but if you were really to do this, if you really did have a team that was a national team, it logically follows that the team that is composed, unless they buckle, the team that is composed of the players from that league, from that nation, would have that added incentive of you want to go out and prove that you can beat Guardiola and beat Mourinho. Not that hard anymore, but beat those big names and prove that you belong. So I think every game you're going to have that. You're not going to have that it's match week 14. Whatever, we're near the top, but we're not challenging. It's always going to be up for it. So there's that element for it as well, in my opinion. I think, and then they've got enough depth right now. And the final thing, was that I couldn't remember what it was. Is that it's key to me this past World Cup that you didn't see an England team that just kind of folds under the pressure. They certainly didn't win the World Cup, obviously, but it was a different performance than I think a lot of people might have expected and might have seen under, say, Sam Allardyce. Yeah. So to have a team of English players that maybe aren't going to bottle it in the big moments or are less inclined to do so than in the past also factors into my reasoning.
Plus, if England played in the Premier League, then football really would be coming home.
Beautiful. We solved it. What about Major League Soccer?
I mean, with all respect to Major League Soccer, France or Brazil would be the best team in Major League Soccer far and away.
I mean, they're not going to... I feel like most of their players won't play on turf, so you're going to get a lot of forfeits.
Or they'd at least get the second or third tier of French players who were willing to play on turf, right? Yeah. I remember Thierry Henry wasn't a fan.
No, right? No, Thierry Henry, Zlatan, there's several others who I believe still refuse to play on turf.
But as an example, if anyone's going to argue with the idea that France would win MLS Cup, they definitely win the Supporters' Shield, and then I know MLS Cup, anything could happen, but they'd win MLS Cup. Kylian Mbappe in Major League Soccer.
Yeah. I mean,
Paul Pogba in Major League Soccer, and N'Golo Kante in Major League Soccer. They are a tier above anyone else that's there right now.
I like the idea, though, of, because it's Major League Soccer, having weirdly archaic and confusing rules that limit, we were talking about if Brazil were playing in the Premier League, they can just call up anybody from the Brazil pool at any given moment. Yeah. I like the idea of it being oh no, you can only call up X number of players, but in this window for this amount of time, and 2 of them have to be from this local region. Just making it really weirdly specific. Yes.
So they have to have MLS roster rules.
Yes, exactly.
So that's the other reason why I think France or Brazil, I can't believe I have to defend this point, why France or Brazil would definitely win Major League Soccer is because MLS rosters are restricted in multiple ways, right? Whereas this would be, if you could just call up the best French and the best Brazilian players, that's a great big loop around the MLS roster rules.
Quick question, though.
Yeah.
Do France or Brazil have Joseph Martinez?
They do not.
Well, then, question mark. No, I'm with you. I think you're going to get all of the common complaints so it's going to happen. Like, you'll get the travel issues, the kind of having to deal with the longevity of the schedule and how many games it is.
Yep.
But I think they'd find a way to get through that one.
Ready for the next question?
Sure.
I'm going to ask you then.
Oh, boy.
Chris Farnham asked us, what's your analysis of the madness in lower division soccer, including teams like Chattanooga and Detroit City FC and others looking to form a new league to challenge the powers that be in American soccer? Will NPSL PRO, he's put pro in quotation marks, be a thing in 2019, in 2024? Question mark again. Chris says, full disclosure, I'm a Detroit City FC supporter.
Okay.
There's a lot going on here. I'm glad we've got a chance to talk about this possible news, because right now it's just a rumor.
I have a feeling that if I answer this question, I'm going to get us sidetracked. So I would actually prefer if you start. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I really will, because I kind of have a broader, more generic answer, and part of it is in response to the way Chris phrases this question.
Okay. I think to answer this question,
Sure.
you know the way my brain operates, right? I think we need to give the background of what the rumor is and what might be happening. Okay.
See, that's not where I would have gone, which is why it's probably better that you start.
I would bet the majority, slim majority maybe, of people listening to this show won't even know that this is happening, because this is only for lower league soccer nerds, right?
Yeah.
So right now, NPSL is it's a semi-pro-ish league with a lot of amateur players in it. It's got 96 teams spread all through the United States, right? But it is not sanctioned in the way that, say, MLS is or USL is or NASL was. The rumour is that the bigger NPSL teams like Detroit City FC and Chattanooga and right now Miami FC are planning to form what's been labelled NPSL PRO, which would be a professional division for NPSL teams with a longer season and a bigger budget and something that's a lot more sort of looks a lot more like a professional league.
Yep.
But it won't be sanctioned by US Soccer. So it's not competing with MLS or with USL. It's going to be sanctioned by the USASA, which is the Amateur Soccer Association or Adult Soccer Association, so that it isn't in conflict with MLS or USL. That's the rumor.
All right, here's a question for you then, just off the bat, because, again, we haven't really talked about this before we started recording. Is it the case, I forget which way this works, do you have to be U.S. soccer sanctioned to be eligible for national teams and national team competitions, or is it simply that you have to be FIFA sanctioned?
For national team competitions?
As in, isn't there a wrinkle where, like, if NASL hadn't gotten U.S. soccer, like if they weren't a sanctioned U.S. soccer league or division, that then players playing in NASL wouldn't have been eligible for other national teams or for U.S. national team because you're not sanctioned?
I mean, that may be true.
Yeah.
But I don't think players in the NPSL are worried about getting national team call-ups.
No, you're right.
There's a lot of NPSL players right now, for example, are college players that play their summers. Because right now, NPSL really only runs from like April or May to July or August. It's a really short season. It's a lot of college players who don't want to ruin their professional eligibility, so they play for no wage.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll get back to it later, because again, my answer to this takes us off topic. So,
okay.
Yeah, but it connects to that. Go ahead.
Okay. So my take on this, because Chris has asked for an analysis, I guess, is I think it's a good thing because it gives teams like Detroit City FC something they can reach for, a next level they can get to without having to join that whole structure of USL or MLS.
Yeah.
Right? So Detroit City FC right now, if you don't know, it's an NPSL team in I can't remember what region, but NPSL is divided into like 4 regions, and then there's 13 conferences within that region, and they mostly just play like 10 to 15 games a season within their conference, and then you get to go to the NPSL playoffs. But that's it. That's all that your season can be, right? But they're still getting like an average of I looked this up, 5,900 fans per game. That's a huge attendance for an NPSL team. So it's clear that there is a groundswell of support and enthusiasm for these smaller teams. So I think it's a good thing to give them something bigger to aim for, a next level to aim for, which would be something where you break out of your region and play against the very best NPSL teams that there are. Yeah. The other reason I think this is good is it would then give new teams something to aim for. Yeah. So if we formed a new team here in Richmond, right, it would be, say it's an NPSL team and it's just playing in one of the conferences, one of the regions, it's semi-pro, maybe we don't pay anybody at all. We could look at it and say, this isn't the ceiling. We could maybe one day take this team to NPSL PRO and play against Detroit City FC and Chattanooga and all those other teams, right?
NPSL franchises are going to be the new podcast where it's like, we could start one and we could get it together. We've got enough people who know, and then we're going to launch our own thing.
But then maybe some of them will fail,
Yeah.
but some of them will succeed, and the ones that succeed can maybe go to that next tier, which would be NPSL Pro. I'm not really talking about Pro Rel. Like maybe it could be Pro Rel, but I think it would be just teams with the financial wherewithal to survive at that higher level, because you don't get that local travel thing that makes an NPSL team feasible right now. You would just basically need the financial infrastructure to survive in the top tier of NPSL. But more teams with access to higher competition and more games, because it would be a full season, making a team like Detroit City FC more, what's the word? Legit isn't the word, because it's legit right now, but just more sustainable because it has a long season. You get all that ticket revenue from a whole season. It just adds to the infrastructure of American soccer.
It does.
More teams is better. That's what I'm saying.
Genuine question that is very off topic.
Yeah.
Are we running out of acronyms? Like can you trademark or register? Like MLS, I'm assuming, is a registered trademark. But at a certain point, we are going to run out of like NPSL, NASL, NSL, USISL, ASL, whatever.
Yeah, So NISA was the other possible thing, right?
Yeah.
That independent teams are going to form. I think that's true. I would not be opposed to new leagues maybe doing it differently.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think what happens is leagues try to match like NBA, NFL, MLB, NASCAR, that kind of stuff. But you could just call it something else entirely that doesn't have to have an acronym, right?
Yes. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
So with that said, I think like the thing that holds me back, because I do think NPSL Pro will happen. I don't know if it will be in 2019 or 2024. I would err on the side of sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
The thing that
there was a board meeting. Dennis Crowley, Kingston Stockade
Mm-hmm.
owner, tweeted that there was a board meeting recently where they discussed the future, and it's very exciting. And we'd heard rumors, right, while we were on the road this summer. We heard rumors that maybe this was happening.
We sure
so
did.
it's 2024 is far too far away for this. I think 2019 or 2020.
Yeah. So with all that said, I think the thing that keeps me from being like 100% super excited about this, it's weirdly non-specific, but it's basically the way lower leagues sort of appear today. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, if you think about, like, I think they're really smart to not go NASL, to not try to, like, okay, we're going to take NASL, we're going to rebrand it, NPSL Pro is actually going to be NASL, because I think there's baggage there. And I think...
I want to talk about that. I'll put a pin in that for a second.
Sure.
I want to talk about that.
But I think to some extent, many conversations about how do you reestablish a pyramid, how do you change it, lower league soccer, it becomes, this is where I was saying I have an issue with Chris's question, is that it begins with the madness in lower division soccer. And that's how it's depicted. It's depicted as all these individual entities who are all kind of squabbling over how it's going to work, and there's infighting and pro-rel. And really, that's the thing that turns me off from this. That's the thing that makes me not as interested, because it just feels like it's still a bunch of people, and it's probably not, but the way it gets covered and the way stuff like that makes it be perceived is it's a fly-by-night organization that it's just kind of trying to throw together disparate groups who can't get an MLS franchise. I don't think that's what they are. I know that's not what they are. But when it becomes, oh, this isn't going to happen because these two owners want pro-rel, these two owners don't, these two think it's a good idea, they can come back to it later, but nobody can agree. So now we're going to have 3 different breakaway leagues, and they're all going to try their own thing. And like it just becomes everybody doing their own thing, and it makes it feel like it's not a sustainable model.
That's why I'm in favor of this, is I think it, assuming it works, which I know is a big assumption, right?
Yeah.
But it adds some structure to non-US soccer sanctioned lower league soccer, right? It adds a structure to it where you can join the NPSL. If you get bigger, then you can join NPSL Pro. And I think if that structure was in place, it feels less fly-by-night. It feels more like something that is here to stay.
Yeah. And with that, if that were to happen, I'm sure they're all
which
listening.
grows soccer in America, right?
True.
Because stability breeds more teams.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, I'm very aware that my opinion doesn't matter in this, but I would say if they were to do that...
It's interesting to hear the way you see it, right? Even if it's not maybe as informed as someone who is a huge NPSL fan, it's still your opinion that is important.
Yeah, well then I would say this.
To me, anyway.
If you're going to establish NPSL Pro, those teams cannot fold, ever. They can. I'm not kidding. They really can't, because that's the other frustration is how many teams have we had in Virginia in the last 15 years? There have been so many pro teams. I don't even know who exists right now because they move around, they change names.
It's interesting. Virginia Beach City is possibly one of the NPSL founding members.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I hesitated to say it because there have been 8 other Virginia Beach franchises who have 8 different names, and that really does matter to me. That when it feels like every season, these 2-12 teams folded or went under or aren't going to participate, but we've got these 13 teams that are. But then next, you need that consistency to create familiarity.
Okay, so here's...
Oh, wait, sorry. So all I was going to say was, so if you're going to do that, I think NPSL Pro has to be those established teams that it's not going to be, this season 3 of them folded, but we've got 3 other teams that are going to be competitive. But I think underneath that, NPSL should be, to your point about try different stuff, try different names, that should be the one where it's this is the Tri League. We're going to try to assemble a team of just the fastest players. We get that question all the time. Try different stuff with the idea that this isn't supposed to be the permanent structure forever. NPSL Pro is supposed to be the one that sticks around and has the longer season. The one where you have a shorter season, you can try different stuff.
Regional NPSL is the lab for experiments.
Yeah, a little bit.
And even experiments in terms of, I founded a team, does it work? Is it financially sustainable? If I lose $40,000 a year running this team, can I as an owner take that hit? If the answer is yes, then it keeps going. Yeah, maybe that can start and it can fail. The ones that stay and succeed can then eventually make their way to NPSL Pro.
Yeah.
Here's the big thing I want to say, though. The reason NASL caused so many teams to fold and fail and started a lot of that bad reputation for non-MLS soccer, in my opinion, is that they were always trying to compete with MLS, right? Yep. They were trying to show that you could go independent and you could just pump money into it and it would eventually succeed. And it never, with all due respect to NASL owners and teams, it never seriously competed with MLS, right? New York Cosmos signed some good players, Marco Senna and all that, or Raul, but it was never a serious competitor to Major League Soccer. The reason I think NPSL Pro is a good idea and a sustainable idea is that it seems to have realistic expectations. It's not saying we're going to compete with MLS, we're going to be the top tier in the United States. It's saying we're going to be sort of the very top of the lower tier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a more realistic, more sustainable thing so that you won't have teams spending $10 million speculating that they'll be able to force MLS into a merger.
Yeah.
Right? It's much more realistic, in my opinion.
I agree with that because I think when you're emulating something, you're copying something. And with that comes the baggage of the thing you're copying. And everybody, for some reason, I know why, but for some reason, when you talk NASL, I feel like the first thing, if I said NASL to a person who's an average soccer fan, knows some stuff, isn't hardcore into it, they would be oh yeah, Cosmos, Pele. They would go, that's what people remember from NASL, and they don't remember the LA Aztecs playing in front of 8 people, or San Antonio having 7 people, or whatever it was. But so with that comes if you try to go the NASL model and you rebrand as NASL, you're sort of putting yourself in a position where everybody expects the Cosmos, but you're not getting the Cosmos. And to do your own thing and start your own league, it matters. All respect to Raul, he wasn't Pele, right? He's not that sort of breaking through barriers, everybody knows who he is star. He's a soccer star that you and I know, and Spanish people know, and European people know, but he wasn't Pele, even though he was a great player. Yeah, but also, even if he were Pele and he was playing for the New York franchise, if you've got 11 other franchises that can't carry that weight, it doesn't really matter what your flagship team is doing.
2 complications. One is that, rumor is, New York Cosmos will be part of NPSL Pro.
That's fine.
So I think maybe a key litmus test for this will be, will the New York Cosmos be branding themselves as, we're going to be the biggest team in America, or are they going to accept that this is where it's at? This independent thing that isn't going to compete with MLS, but recognizes what the ceiling is. That's going to be a key litmus test to me.
The key thing for me will be not necessarily how they choose to brand themselves and identify themselves, it's how they choose to exist within the league. Because not going the politics route, but kind of bringing up politics. Don't be scared. Think about Donald Trump with the UFL, whatever it was, USFL.
Yeah, small potatoes. Watch that documentary on Netflix if you can. Yeah.
If you come into a league that is trying to do a thing a certain way, and you want to change it to meet what you think they should be doing, that's not great. And if the Cosmos were to come in and say, we're all in, we want to do this small team, small market, but also we're going to be the biggest team in the league, and this should be the biggest team, we should be competing with MLS, and therefore we should all have X number of dollars to spend every season. Suddenly you're changing the model, and that can be very detrimental to the status of the league.
I agree. So keep an eye on what Cosmos, and to some extent Miami FC do, right? Because they have the rich owner as well.
And you should definitely watch Small Potatoes, you're right.
You should, right? The other thing that's worth mentioning here is USL Division 3. So right now we have Major League Soccer, Division 1. We have USL, it's Division 2. And launching in 2019, there are lots of teams been announced. It's definitely happening. USL Division 3. which is going to have a lot of teams that some of them are going to be in the same cities as NPSL teams. I think there's going to be a Chattanooga USL Division 3 team, which will be directly competing with the Chattanooga NPSL team.
Yeah.
So we both saw the same interview, right? Jason Davis and Nipun Chopra discussing, I think Nipun mentioned the idea that Chattanooga FC kind of, they have to make this NPSL move to stay viable so they don't just get swallowed by the Chattanooga USL team.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, is that they need to get to that next level to be competing. But I think the important thing for NPSL Pro will still be to recognise that we are probably one tier below USL Division 3.
Yeah. For now. Yeah, I think it's all about recognizing your status and like acting accordingly. That if you have, and this is what I mean to bring it all the way back to my initial feeling about this question, about this conversation, is that I think so often there's this idea in lower level soccer of I was here first, and that is the thing that matters. That I was the one who established this team first. And I'm not naming names, I'm not even thinking of anybody specifically, but if your idea is we were here first and therefore we'll always be the best, it means you're not adapting, you're not evolving. And I think, like, to get hung up on like, yeah, we were here and we should be competing versus like, yeah, we were here first, but this one comes in, they're in a larger league, they're in a league with more money, so we're going to have to exist within that, and we're going to brand ourselves differently, and we're going to approach the fan base differently. I think that can allow two teams to survive. It's
going to be interesting, right? USL Division 3 and NPSL Pro. I think I just said NPSL Pro should be like, except that they're below that, but I can see them sort of, it's almost like two pyramids, and like the peak of one pyramid is maybe hoping to poke slightly above the base of the other pyramid. Yeah. So we're going to have that classic American soccer slight misalignment of what everybody's doing.
Well, one exists.
So that's worrying.
Yeah, but one exists and one is theoretical. So the theoretical one could always be whatever you think it might be until it exists, and then we'll see what it is.
Are you excited for USL Division 3?
What do you mean by excited is my answer.
Do you think it's a good idea?
I think more leagues to have more teams playing more soccer and thus allow more players to continue to play is never a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I really do go back to like one of the things that made us think that MLS was going to fail was when they contracted two teams. When two teams were removed, the two Florida franchises, that felt like, oh, this could be the death. And it took them a very long time to get over that. And if you are establishing a new league, but then four of the teams drop out, and maybe next year we're not going to have that league, that's the thing that like makes me not excited. Is anything that we've just seen, you and I have seen so many leagues in Richmond alone. The Kickers have played in 5 or 6 different leagues, I think.
Yeah. Well, some of it's just USL rebranding in different ways.
Very true. That's true, and that's worth remembering. But I just think anything that gives it this air of fly-by-night status without that being the goal of like we're trying stuff, but if it's like this is the new league, this is going to be it, and 2 seasons from now it's like actually we're going to do USL again, and it's just going to be like that's the only thing that doesn't make me as excited as I otherwise would be.
Can I end on an optimistic note,
please,
for pro-rel aficionados? So this could be the beginnings of something. It could be the beginning of, say, NPSL Pro being the thing that the other NPSL teams can be promoted to. So a version of pro-rel, like whether financial or actual results-based. Could be long-term, it could be that. USL Division 3 and current USL, which is Division 2 sanctioned, it's not going to be pro-rel to begin with, but that could be the beginnings of promotion and relegation between those two divisions. So we could be seeing the start of something that could happen in a very slow, crawly kind of way.
Yeah. But not Crawley Town.
Not Crawley Town.
Okay.
No. Who would definitely win MLS?
I was going to say, that's a statement.
They would not.
I could get you some angry responses.
They'd get destroyed.
There we go.
All right, so Chris, we spent a long time on that question, right? I hope we answered it thoroughly. I'm sure we'll hear from people.
I'm sure we will. I think we had a similar, it occurred to me, we had a similar conversation when I got into the idea of how teams brand themselves and identify themselves. And I think we had several people email us last time to say that worrying about how people brand themselves and identify themselves is stupid. So I'm sure we'll get some of those too. And I don't care because it matters.
More on that later.
Sure.
We have 4 more questions to answer. But first, today's show is sponsored by The Athletic. If you've been listening to Total Soccer Show, you should know all about The Athletic.
You certainly should, because they've got lots of our favorite writers writing about lots of our favorite things, whether it be the Premier League, MLS, U.S. soccer, any of their national teams, their respective national teams. everything is covered there, including some satire by Brooks Peck, even if people don't like satire.
Oh, this really got my attention this week.
It's so good.
So with the Save the Crew movement, Columbus Crew, and the Austin FC logo being announced, which feels like not good news to me. Also not a great logo.
But also the Crew soliciting season ticket purchases?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess right now. Brooks wrote a story, and Brooks is one of the editors at The Athletic. A few of the MLS franchises that could move at any moment. And I read this as one, satire that made me laugh a lot.
It's Brooks.
Is
of course it's satire.
Yeah, it's Brooks, right? Yeah. But also, it has a serious point, right? Which, to me, the serious point, the undercurrent of it is, if they can move Columbus Crew, they can sort of move any team at a given point, right? So it's based on that idea, but it's but then it satirically moves a lot of teams, I think mostly to Texas, and mostly renames them with an FC.
Yeah, and I would extend it one further to say, like, it's not if they move the Crew, then they can move anybody. It's like, no, they can move anybody when they want to. And I think people just like to think, oh, no, we're big enough, strong enough, nobody ever would.
Yep.
And it's an absurd to think that, as Brooks suggests, Atlanta, what would happen if Atlanta moved? Like, he's not saying that sincerely. But there's a chance that 10 years from now, Atlanta aren't doing very well, and suddenly there's another option.
If Arthur Blank sells it to someone who thinks that there's a good spot for a team in...
Las Vegas is doing great. We need another LA franchise.
There we go.
Who knows?
That's not impossible, right?
Yeah.
Atlanta fans so angry right now. But it's worth reminding Atlanta fans that it's not likely, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
I did love that he handcuffed it of... Atlanta is there, like, I think he did this tongue-in-cheek to annoy people. Atlanta is there for Orlando to have a rival, and then he moves them, and then the next one was Orlando, because now they don't have a rival, so we may as well move them.
This is why Brooks is not MLS commissioner.
Yeah.
Other stories that I really enjoyed, Adam Snavely's panic rankings.
I didn't enjoy that as much.
Is that because there was a lot of Man United?
Because Man United is number one, the most panicked.
Without giving away a lot of what's in there, because I think you got to subscribe to The Athletic. It's behind a paywall, but there's good stuff behind the paywall. This is the panic rankings for the Premier League. It's now going to be a weekly series, as I understand it. I have been looking my whole life. I always wanted to write one, but I could never find it. Of doing a Premier League roundup column that isn't like really flat and boring, but also gets some interesting analysis and gets all the storylines in there. I think Adam's figured it out with the panic rankings. It really is. It's the quirky, definitely unique, no one else is doing this, way of rounding up what's happened in the Premier League this weekend, but with a completely new angle.
Yes.
It's excellent.
I would agree with everything you said, because even with the way you described it, it could be taken as like, oh, he's just like listing the teams from like most panicked to, or least panicked to most panicked.
Yeah,
it's just, but it's not, because it's so much more like abstract and at times weird, but very funny. It's a really good way to approach it in a way that I would agree with you I haven't seen before.
And I would list it as, so we met Adam for a weekend, right? So, I mean, so we don't know him very well, but we know him a little bit. I would call his writing comedic, poetic, and analytical as well. He really combines all three. I think this is a great, great thing, the Premier League panic rankings.
Comedic, analytic, and poetic. Cap?
Yeah.
It's cap rating.
It's cap, He does wear
I'm all about acronyms today, my friend. I'm all about acronyms.
And we also found out Henry Bushnell's column on Yahoo, Darts, he's no longer going to be writing it. He's going to be writing more features. That was my other really go-to Premier League analysis. So I think Adam Snavely now has the very best Premier League roundup in the whole world.
So if you would like to check out what Adam Snavely is doing, what Brooks is doing, what any of the other many writers are doing at The Athletic, you can do so.
I've got something in the works.
And you can do so. Daryl's got something in the works. You can do so at a discount.
You certainly can. 40% off your subscription to The Athletic if you go to theathletic.com/TSS August. The letters TSS and then the word August as all one word. We'll put the link in the show notes so you can click it easily. But that's 40% off. Theathletic.com/TSS August. As we've said before, support the soccer ecosystem.
Support it indeed. Next question, Mr. Grove?
Comes from Brendan Massa. Brendan Massa wants to know, since many teams have interesting backstories for their colours and kit styles, stripes or hoops and so on, and badges, if you two, meaning me and you, Taylor, were awarded an MLS franchise tomorrow, don't tell Brooks, how would your personal experiences with soccer be reflected in your team's identity?
First of all, these would be
a tough question.
These would be the least popular teams ever. Can you imagine a team that exists like what?
I said I agree.
Yeah, because think about what happened with like Cardiff when Vincent Tan was like, I want to make it all about me. Everybody loved that.
You're Welsh, but now you're Malaysian.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with that said,
I guess we're gonna do this individually, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I've gone for like what would my branding sort of actually be, and then how that would inform the team. Colors would be dark blue and white because Virginia flag. I'm from Virginia. Okay. That's where I first started playing soccer. That's where I learned to play soccer. But I'm picturing it similar to the South Carolina flag because I want the crescent in there, the white crescent moon, for my Turkish experiences and what I learned in Turkey about soccer. But because it's already sort of reminiscent of the Scottish flag, I want the big white X on there too, because Sir Alex Ferguson was like the formative person when it came to my understanding of soccer and my appreciation of soccer.
So it's a blue flag, with
dark blue,
with the white St Andrew's cross for Scotland, and then a Turkish crescent moon in the
crescent
corner.
moon. Yeah, why not? Sure.
That's your crest?
Yeah, I think
that's
so.
That's your crest or your jersey?
That's my crest, but then it informs the jersey, the colors. We can have a big white X across it. They can also be X-Men. That works.
All right. What else you got?
I'm aware that I've evoked South Carolina and a big cross. Not going Confederate flag here. Not going Confederate flag. We're going Scottish flag, as you said.
Yeah, St. Andrews.
Yeah, we go. Thank you. I should probably know what that's called. In terms of how that then goes into my team.
It's like the X-Men thing, but the superpower is fried food.
Perfect. There we go. I've always loved a 3-4-3. It's been my favorite formation to play throughout my life. Yeah. That's what we're playing, but it's going to incorporate the kind of chaotic frenziness of Turkish soccer with a little bit of the Sir Alex Ferguson attack. So it's going to be frenzied attacking soccer, less emphasis on defense, more so on scoring 400 goals.
Is it Ataturk?
There we go.
I couldn't say it enough times.
But in keeping with the frenzied attacking nature.
Imagine them trying to chant that.
Yeah, Ataturk. Yeah, it works perfectly. But in keeping with that tradition of frenzied energy and getting amped up, I also think there's something to be said. You know I love analyzing goal celebrations. I like pre-match rituals. So my like people to get us going to really establish the energy is the Doof Warrior from Mad Max Fury Road, the guitarist who plays in front of like 400 speakers with the drums behind him. It really gives you that like intimidating metal feel. Okay. And with that, since Johan Cruyff is one of, if not my favorite players, everyone on the team is required to smoke. That's my team.
Interesting. I would have required them to learn the Cruyff term, but okay.
No. That too, but while smoking.
So I feel like mine is not as detailed. It's not going to be as good.
You don't have the Doof Warrior in yours?
No, I do not have the Doof Warrior.
Get it together.
In mine. So my soccer experience is very much split between where I'm from and where I am.
Yep.
So the Atlantic Ocean is in the middle. So my team jersey would be the blue-green of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. That would be the team colours. Just that. All just the blue-green of the Atlantic Ocean. The crest would be...
With like little pieces of trash on there too? Just to really... Okay.
That's a very harsh way to refer to cruise liners.
Is it, though? Is it?
The crest would be my Expedia searches for flights from Dulles to London. And it would be constantly updating with what the most recent price was.
So you just have like an LED that like scrolls up and down.
And when you see it on the website, you can click through and we'd have an affiliate deal.
There we go.
We'd take a cut
of course you would.
of any flights that you book. It's revenue. It's
Stick
revenue.
with Expedia, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a new one?
I mean, there's like 7 billion
of
them.
Is there?
Yeah.
Kayak, Orbitz...
Fair Compares. Fair Compare does all of them and opens like 400 tabs, but, you know, whatever.
I feel like we're doing the BBC thing where other flight aggregators are available.
Yeah.
So the other thing I would like to do is my soccer experience has been very much formed by the Total Soccer Show and how we've gone about doing things, right? And the thing I always want is for teams to be transparent and explain what they're doing. Sort of like Dennis Crowley's Kingston Stockade finances, but with tactics.
Okay.
My team would describe what we're doing all the time. We would tell our fans, here's our style of play, here's what we're doing. We would make our fans informed about our tactics. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but the opposition will know. I don't care. That's what we're going to do. We're going to be open source tactically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you planning... See, I feel like you've really... I was with you completely until this one. Because really then you are 100% playing into... All you're doing is establishing that if you tell people what you're doing, your team gets destroyed.
Maybe not. Maybe it's so unbeatable that no one can touch it.
Is that how it works? I don't think that's how it works. If you say we're going to attack on the left-hand side every single time, they're going to be prepared for that. But if you adjust, then you're being disingenuous to your fans because you're not doing what you said you were going to do.
All right, well, how about if we make it's more like, here's our style of play, right? This is what we're trying to do. But then, the minute tactical things of like, we're going to exploit this right back because he's not very good. Maybe we don't share that before the game. But we do share the general thing like we're a pressing team or we're a passing team or the various things that we like to do. The things that any good coach could figure out by watching our team. We share that information with our fans, right? Just so they know what's going on.
Okay.
We're going to be homegrown heavy.
All right.
We are going to try as much as possible to hashtag play your kids.
All right.
We might even make that our official team motto.
Now, since it's reflecting...
What's Latin for play your kids?
Oh, boy. I don't even know.
Hashtag the Latin for play your kids.
See, that's going to annoy me because I still retain just enough Latin to, like, theoretically take a shot. But no, then Ed Horatius will email to say I'm a moron.
I'll tell you what, will someone just tweet that at us? Hashtag the play your kids in Latin.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe don't explain it. Let's just get that going.
I feel like given the history of ancient Rome and ancient Greece to some extent, I feel like playing your kids could take on a different context.
Well, the context I'm referring to is very specific.
Okay, I
It's
gotcha.
about promoting talented young players from the academy we will no doubt establish.
Here's my...
and then we'll play them. We'll get lots of minutes in our first team.
May I ask you a question about your academy?
Yes.
Because it's reflective of you, are you going to have an academy in England and an academy wherever this team is based?
And Greenland.
And Greenland too? Because that's...
Then go halfway.
Okay, cool. No, but I'm serious. Like, would your homegrown idea be, because you live in the United States now, it would be just American players from wherever the team is founded, or would it be reflective of your identity?
Well, it's an MLS franchise, right?
Okay.
That
Right. Good point.
So it kind of has to be, right? But we'd be open to some Jack Harrison type guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, I might
You
encourage...
should just establish your catchment area as being England. Think out of the box, people.
We'll put the team in the Outer Banks.
Perfect.
Then we just extend our catchment area over to
You got this.
Greenland, Iceland, Ireland,
Yeah.
England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland.
Yeah, perfect.
We'll take it all.
You got it.
We'll take it all. What else have we got? Oh, I want the announcers, our team announcers, to be properly announcing the game. I feel like I would be the owner that was weirdly obsessed with what our announcers were doing. I'd pay more attention to the announcers than to the team. And of course, we'd have a podcast.
Oh man,
The team would have a podcast.
I'm not going to name names, but I am going to tease it significantly. I'll say this. You weren't there for that broadcast. I did a broadcast of the Richmond Kickers game where their opponent cared a lot about how they were branded and identified.
Oh, really?
And that was real stressful. Yeah.
Oh, you got some messages.
I got a whole lot of, you're not allowed to say this, you have to say this, you have to refer to them this way, you can't say this.
That.
If you're going to say the colors, it has to be this color, not this color.
So yes, that actually, I would be a lot looser with the branding than most MLS teams are, but very specific about, like, don't talk about what you had for dinner or what this player did in 2007.
Or,
explain announce what's happening, explain why this guy can't progress down the side. Like, I want educated announcers. Yeah.
If you're telling me how he played a season in the second division in Sweden while one of his teammates is scoring.
You get fired halfway through that sentence.
No, but it's not even that. But if it's while they're scoring or while there's an attacking move happening, then you're fired.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it works.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that at the end of this we could merge our ideas, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to.
I'll take yours and just throw instead of an airline partner, we're going to have the dystopian cars from Mad Max, and we'll have the Dufour do all the pre-match ceremony. We're good to go, man.
I'm definitely in on that. Yeah.
And maybe some smoking, whatever. It's fine.
Ready for the next question?
I will say yes. I will say, so I guess no.
This team would get moved to Texas so fast.
I know. Or taken away from us real fast.
That's what I mean.
I will say smoking was not banned in Turkey when I was there. Yeah. So generally it's not banned, obviously, but you could still smoke in the stadium. Yeah. And my favorite thing was when Galatasaray, well, not my favorite thing, but when Galatasaray were losing, just you could see all of the smoke in the air from everybody stress smoking. And it kind of connects again to my experiences in Turkey with soccer.
My team would be anti-smoking because it's bad for you. Mm-hmm. All right, next question.
Yeah.
You ready? Is from Shreyas Romani.
I'm just saying the science is still out.
Definitely is not. It 100% is not.
I'm not even a smoker. I don't know why I'm making this argument.
You've been bought off by Aaron Eckhout.
By Big Tobacco?
Yeah. Shreyas Romani wants
Altria owns half our city, so yeah.
Maurizio Sarri recently had an interesting quote where he said that he was asking his players to defend by looking only at the ball and not the man. Mm-hmm. He said it allowed defenders to stay higher up the pitch because they aren't depending on the movement of the opposition and they could go and hunt down the ball for 90 minutes instead of waiting for opponents to make a move. Mm-hmm. What do you think of this tactic as former players?
I love it.
So before we address the sorry part, I want to address the former players part.
Yeah.
So either Shreyas thinks we've stopped playing or he thinks we used to play at a higher level than we did.
I mean...
So we need to correct the record here.
That's factually true. So I would say...
but we're not former professionals. I think that's worth... I thought maybe Shreyas was thinking that we had formerly played in Major League Soccer.
I'm trying to find if I have a loophole where one time I got paid to play a game, but no. Yeah, so no, we're not former professionals. We do still play.
We are present amateurs.
Sure.
How about that? Yeah.
There we go. Present amateurs. But I love this approach. I think it's very smart.
So what is this approach? Because I feel like it needs. The other thing is, I'm worried that Shreyas thinks maybe he's talking about 1v1 defending, whereas I've read the full quote from Sarri. He's definitely talking about the way he likes his team to set up tactically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I like it because, first of all, it's not just like never ever pay attention to the men, I'm assuming, but it's more about where are you in relation to the ball.
Yep.
It indicates that they play zones, that you have zones of influence where you're supposed to be responsible and you're supposed to know your responsibilities within the context of where the ball is in relation to your zone. So if it's close, you got to go here. If there's a person in your zone, then you have to think about this. But generally speaking, I think it's a while being incredibly complex, it's a simplified way to deal with defending because you're not caught. We had this last night. Sorry for going on a ramble here, but we had this last night in our training session where we were trying to figure out your team was doing a very good of interchanging positions and moving people around, and we were trying to figure out how do you combat that because we had been doing a man system, but if you lose your man once, now suddenly there's an overload. So we are kind of trying to approach a zone, but that's really hard to do without a lot of training. But it does make more sense because then if people if you've got a person running into and out of your zone, you don't have to follow, you don't have that confusion, you know where you're staying in relation to the ball, but it requires a lot of discipline.
And so I think this is what's been working for Chelsea is you do see them press the ball and you see them keep a team shape while they're doing it. And I think you said earlier that it lets you have a very simple instruction to do a complex thing. I think that's the key to it. I think that's why this works for Maurizio Sarri's team, right? Because instead of if your left winger is running out wide, you're not tempted, if you're the right back, you're not tempted to go and chase him all the way out wide. You know that if the ball is over the other side of the field, your team shape is that you're supposed to be here. And then it's almost like your team becomes more like synchronized swimmers, right? They're more in an organized, regimented shape, which allows the pressing to happen.
Yeah, and one thing I feel like I may have been confusing with my answer, so I'm going to change my terminology a little bit because when I say zone, I don't mean zonal marking. I don't mean you're playing a zone. I mean I'm going to change it to area of influence, that you have specific areas of the field that are your responsibility as a player, and you then know what you're supposed to do within that area. So it's not a zone. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, I'm with you that I think that's what makes it effective.
And everybody else knows as well, right? Yeah. So the way I'm imagining this is, say the right back again as the example, he's just looking at what the ball is doing, whoever has the ball, however far away it is, and he just knows where to be in relation to the ball. If every player has that same understanding of where they've got to be in relation to the ball, it means your team's never out of shape. You're always doing what Maurizio Sarri has asked you to do. Yep. So you just attach this one principle, which is react to the ball, not to where the men are going, and you suddenly have a very organised team shape. And that really, really helps with pressing. So in that sense, I mean, it seems to be working, right? They've won 3 games.
I cannot wait for Liverpool-Chelsea. That game's going to be fascinating for that reason.
Because they move so much. Yeah.
But I also have the faith in Klopp, that feels weird to say, to sort of look at what Sarri is doing and find ways to adjust his system just a little bit to exploit vulnerabilities that exist within Chelsea's as a result.
Because yes, it has to be exploitable, right? Because if you know really, I mean, this sort of contradicts my idea of open source tactics, right? But if you know exactly what the opposition coach is asking the players to do, if you're smart, you can go a step beyond that and be like, all right, they're all going to react to what the ball's doing. So I don't know how, but we'll somehow use that to our advantage.
Well, I mean,
maybe they drag the ball all the way to one touchline, but then they have someone really stretch on that blind side and they switch the play.
Well, yeah.
As a really simple example.
I mean, that could be one, but it could also be you're probing for vulnerabilities, and if the system is everybody needs to stay, I'm simplifying for purposes of this conversation, but if it is, say, the left back isn't allowed to go wide. They have to stay, they can't go closer than 15 yards to the touchline. We want to make sure we keep a compact shape. You could probe that. You could send somebody wide with the ball and just wait and see if that left back finally strays out and see which players on the field are most vulnerable to not buying into the system, but maybe still doing their own thing a little bit, and that presents opportunities because if that holding midfielder isn't quite sure of what they're supposed to do, so they go charging out to try to win that ball, suddenly you've pulled a person out of position. So you could probe those vulnerabilities while at the same time, trying different things, like put one on the touchline, put the other on the other touchline, and you're just switching back and forth. See if that causes problems.
Just getting to
shoot
run
from distance. See if that causes problems. Yeah.
So I'm really glad that Shreyas highlighted this Sarri quote, because I didn't know that this was how Chelsea would be playing. I mean, I knew they would be pressing. I knew that they would be very compact and narrow and organised as a team shape, but I didn't know that he was coaching them to follow the ball and not the men. I think that's a really interesting concept. So next time we watch Chelsea, we'll be able to watch that with that concept in mind.
Yeah. Since we're already going to go long on this show, I want to ask you this. This is like a weird thought I had. Do you think there's an argument to be made that if you bring in a disciplinarian like Antonio Conte, who wants everyone to do the exact like you have to do what I say, you have to buy into the system, you must play the way I want you to play. If you don't do this, you're benched, and it's going to be a problem. It works, obviously, but it eventually you burn out players. Where Willian said there was no way I was going to play for him this season.
Yeah,
but it's similar to like Easy Company and Band of Brothers having the really jerk drill instructor, that it made them better. And it makes me wonder if like then when you get rid of the jerk...
David Schwimmer?
It was. Yeah. And when they get rid of him, they become this incredibly effective unit. Similarly, I wonder if like you get rid of the jerk who set your team up to like, we must listen, we have to play a certain way, but they just don't want to play his way anymore. If the manager who comes in and is a little bit more relaxed... I wonder if that almost benefits them to have the jerk there first so everybody's drilled and ready.
All right.
And then the friendly one comes in and is like, we're going to do this. And like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And you're nice. Let's do it. Like, so hire a jerk, get him trained up, fire the jerk, bring in somebody nice.
So that your sort of very structured asking a lot system feels like you're not asking that much in comparison to the last guy.
But everybody's also already used to the asking a lot system, so they're kind of ready for it.
That's what a good technical director would do, would really plan long term like that.
There we go.
Should plan the various levels of jerkiness.
Yeah, in Daryl FC, or Daryl SC, I guess we'll go with for your MLS franchise, we won't be telling the fans that plan. That might be too much clarity.
This is jerk season, but don't worry, it's going to pay off next year. This is all going to pay off in 2021.
Jerk season, happy season.
We have one more question, which I'm excited to get to. But we also have the final ad for Liverpool Jeans. I'm saying this like it's very sombre. I mean, it's been a great campaign, the Liverpool Jeans ad campaign. Today's the final ad for Liverpool Jeans.
It is. You threw me with sombra for a second. Yes, it is. Hopefully Liverpool Jeans will return, especially because... it's August right now. We found out last night. It's still like 100 degrees with 100% humidity. But it will get colder eventually. Fall is coming. And you're going to want those new jeans. You're going to want to, change up the outfit a little bit. You got to put the shorts in a box. You got to bring the jeans back out. Maybe those jeans don't look as good as they did last year. Liverpool's got you covered.
Now's the time to buy Liverpool jeans. We really have been wearing them ever since we found out about this company. We hope you will too. They are stylish. They have the slim fit. They have the skinny fit, which I haven't been brave enough to try, but you are welcome to try it if you like.
Yes, you are. I will say this, though. So it is getting eventually theoretically going to get colder. We'll see if that happens. I was wearing a pair of jeans the other day that were not Liverpool jeans, and I walked the dogs. It was 9 a.m. I came back drenched in sweat. The next morning I was wearing Liverpool jeans, same temperature, less drenched in sweat. So I think a little bit more breathable, a little bit more comfortable.
There is a weird fibre thing going on there where it keeps you a little cooler. Yeah. So a little bit of stretch as well in Liverpool jeans. The big thing is they are the same standard as some very expensive designer jeans, but they are under $100. Yes. This is like if you put a soccer team together on a budget and yet you still ended up with the very best players.
Yep. And I'll say I went to a clothing sale recently. I saw their pants prices and I really did in my head think, Liverpool jeans will do it for me.
If you want to get it even cheaper, now is the time. Because for a limited time, this is the result of some negotiations behind the scenes as well, the TSS discount code is worth 30% off.
Oh boy.
You go to liverpooljeans.com, anything that you find there, men's jeans, women's jeans, 30% off if you use the discount code TSS. This genuinely can't last forever because retailers can't be selling their jeans 30% off the whole time. But if you use TSS discount code at liverpooljeans.com right now, 30% off anything you find there.
All right. And continuing from Brendan's question, if we were to make our own pair of Liverpool jeans, mine would be reflective of the dystopian future of Mad Max Fury Road. So they'd be capable of being worn for 15 years without changing them, and they would never give out. Daryl, because he's all about transparency, would have clear jeans.
Transparent jeans.
Yes, exactly.
Unfortunately, there are no transparent jeans stocked at liverpooljeans.com right now.
I also want to add, I have not seen Mad Max in 3 years. I don't know why this is suddenly right at the forefront of my thinking, but it is.
You start imagining dystopian things on top of it.
Yes, I think so. Just preparing. Just getting ready.
All right, one more time, thank you to Liverpool Jeans for sponsoring the Total Soccer Show for the past few months. If you want to support our sponsor, go to liverpooljeans.com and get yourself a deal, TSS, for 30% off at checkout.
Indeed. So thank you to Liverpool Jeans for sponsoring today's show. Daryl, one more question. Would you like to read it or would you like me to read it?
I would like to read it.
Okay.
How about this? It's from Zach Lippert. Zach wants to know, how should La Liga pursue the US market? I had to go through 4 videos on YouTube to find highlights that weren't blocked. And La Liga players unanimously oppose playing a game in the US. That was the recent news where there was a suggestion that maybe they'd be doing that. a La Liga league game. I would think, says Zach, beIN's excellent World Cup coverage would have helped bring people to their channel, but they are still relatively small, beIN Sports, which is who broadcasts the Liga, at least in name recognition and viewership, to US fans when compared to ESPN, Fox, and NBC. NBC. So, Taylor, what's the answer? How should La Liga pursue the US market, which is a thing they're trying to do?
Well, very quickly, you uncovered some interesting news about beIN Sports, correct?
I saw the news this morning.
Yeah, worth noting.
That beIN Sports has been dropped by DirecTV and I think AT&T Universe.
Not
and it
ideal.
Is either currently or recently in a dispute with Verizon and Comcast about carriage fees.
Yep.
I assume the DirecTV thing is about carriage fees as well.
Yep.
Carriage fees are essentially how much the network wants the cable company to pay them to carry their programming, right? So I think beIN Sports upped their carriage fees, and a lot of cable companies, either as part of a negotiation or not, have just said, no, we're not paying that.
Right.
So things are not looking good for beIN Sports in terms of how many homes it's available in right now, especially, as Zach says, when compared to ESPN, Fox, and NBC.
Right. So with that in mind, basically, I'm going to go away from talking about TV networks and how they should approach this because...
Okay. I think it's a big part of it, but I'll come back to it.
No, it certainly is, but I guess what I mean to say is, like, I don't want to tell, like, beIN should be doing this and this and this when beIN aren't even available. Like, we can't watch beIN right now because we have DirecTV.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't really comment on that. What I would say is that whomever does branding or marketing, whoever gets the next La Liga contract, whatever it should be, I think the problem, in my opinion, with La Liga in this country has been that it's all about Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Yep.
That's all it is. And exemplified by Espanyol came here and played in the preseason, played friendly against the Richmond Kickers.
Yep.
All of the promotion for that was Espanyol from Barcelona tied Real Madrid, like beat Atletico. Like, it's always these sort of in relation to those two or three big clubs.
I agree. And so I read the article. Who was? I've forgotten who wrote it. Was it Palomara? Wrote it for The Athletic about Espanyol's trip to Richmond to play against the Kickers. Yeah. And then part of the concept of it was to promote the smaller La Liga teams to smaller American markets where maybe you could make an impact. So my question to you is, how could they do it differently? Like, if you're not going to tie Espanyol to Barça, Real, Atletico, how do you go about promoting them?
Sure.
And I don't ask this as a challenge. I'm not sure I know the answer. I think it's a really interesting concept.
I think I have two ideas. I think one, what people like buy into, it's not necessarily the players on the teams, because Espanyol don't have that many like name players. They don't have a Ronaldo or a Messi. So if you're trying to do that, that's not going to be as effective. And if you're trying to do that and that player gets sold, that loyalty is difficult to stick with. Whereas I think people respond to, look at the supporter culture in this country. People respond to the atmosphere and the kind of culture that the club has established. And if you can get the culture and the history and significance of the club to resonate, then it resonates. And so I think if you did... basically, the easiest way that I could see, again, because I'm avoiding TV channels because that confuses me, is like if you had a YouTube channel that had like one series on the history of every La Liga club and like making it animated and interesting.
And they're fascinating, right? The history of like Athletic Club de Bilbao and the whole concept of only playing Basque players is a fascinating concept. Yeah, I would watch a good 20-minute YouTube video about that. La Liga could pay to produce that.
Yeah. And
they could pay some podcasters to produce that.
And I think one of the... yeah, I would happily do that. I think one of the most genius marketing, branding, awareness spreading campaigns that has existed in the last 10 years is Ted Lasso. And I think if you did a Ted Lasso-esque figure as one of your YouTube channels and you paid somebody handsomely, say The Rock, I think would resonate pretty well, and had him being a manager trying to figure out La Liga and trying to figure out all these teams, or Kevin Hart, or somebody who resonates, I think that would be a very good approach as well, to like approach the comedic side, but also have the history and the culture of the teams. And then to Zach's point, to make the highlights easily accessible. So if you did, how much would you and I love like 10-minute extended highlight packages where we could go in and watch 10 minutes of a game and feel like we understood what had happened, and it's not just quick cut of a goal, quick cut of a goal, quick cut of a red card, there's your highlight package. And that was grainy after having to click through 14 videos that appeared to be highlight videos.
Or like a BBC Match of the Day.
That would be lovely
La Liga,
too.
Right? But that takes a TV company investing in producing that.
Yeah. So I think it's about, if you really are like whoever it is in La Liga who might be responsible for creating a footprint or more of a footprint in the United States than currently exists, I think it's about how easily you can get your best moments, not just the best moments from 2 or 3 teams, but all of the moments from the weekend into or in front of the eyes of potentially interested parties, but then also making those teams and those players resonate more than they do. I think the easiest way to do that is YouTube or some sort of freely available channel that you could even geotag or geotie to the United States.
But with a friendly American guiding you through it, right? Yeah, maybe a Spanish-speaking American. One of the Cooligans might be good. Both the Cooligans might be good. They both speak Spanish. Like, I don't know if Kevin Hart speaks Spanish or not.
Probably not.
But someone
I'm sure we can find somebody who does.
Because I remember growing up in England, James Richardson being in Italy, hosting the weekly roundup of Italian football. That's a big deal for people who grew up watching football in England in the 90s. We all knew weird things about the Sampdoria team because we had, and like random Serie A teams, because we had this friendly host guiding us through it, like delivering the roundup of Italian soccer and news to us every single weekend. I think that could work here in the United States.
I'm down.
Do you know what they are doing right now, La Liga?
What are they doing right now?
The big story from a week or two ago was that idea of La Liga playing one of their league games in the United States, right? And that hit all the headlines. But that was part of a bigger deal, a bigger promotional deal with Relevant, I think they're called.
Yep.
It's a pun, right? I'm not sure I like it, but it's a pun. The people that put together the International Champions Cup, where there's a lot of they're going to open like La Liga branded youth academies, and there's going to be lots of like marketing hookups in that way. So they're definitely about to try something, and we're just going to see how it goes. But I think you're right. Unless the coverage of the league itself has a bigger impact, I'm not sure that various little academies and stuff like that will make as big an impact unless it hits the popular culture in a way.
I mean, I think I'll speak for myself here and I'll say, like, at my core, I think I'm lazy. And I think that I like the thing that I know is consistent. If I know Premier League is going to be on NBC Sports unless it's on NBC, it's roughly, you can tune in at 10:30 in the morning and you're probably going to find soccer on NBC Sports.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to have La Liga on beIN or if it's going to be one of the other like sports they have or a highlight package or whatever.
Or if you can find beIN on your TV
or now. That. And I think it's the ease at which people can see and what's the word I'm looking for here? Consume your product is the way that you get it to spread more.
Make it easy.
There we go.
Yeah, make it easy.
Yep.
I do think the TV thing is a big deal. That's why I wanted to take the pin out of that and talk about it. I think if La Liga, sort of like how Serie A is now on ESPN, there's going to be a televised ESPN game and then a bunch of games on ESPN Plus. If La Liga could get a similar deal, I think that might work for them. And if beIN are in trouble, then there might be an opportunity there. Because their deal right now goes through 2020 with beIN. There might be an opportunity to make a bigger splash in the US market if they hooked up with a different network. And so, like, say, if NBC did a Ted Lasso type thing for them.
If only there was like a large network with a decent amount of money in place who had just attained the rights to, say, the Champions League and were maybe looking for ways to expand their soccer broadcast.
Turner Sports is a new player in the soccer market in the US.
Oh, is that who I was alluding to?
The other part of this is Liga has a weird advantage where they could address the Spanish-speaking market in the United States, right? Right now, I might be incorrect about this, I'm pretty confident that La Liga, you have like Spanish language rights and English language rights. I think the Spanish language rights are also owned by beIN Sports. I think just beIN Sports Español has the La Liga rights. I wonder if like Univision or someone got a La Liga package, if that would go down well.
I assume it would. I think it would.
I actually don't know what like Spanish-speaking people in the US, what their relationship is with Spain. Like, do they care about Spain or not at all?
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, someone let us know. Someone email let us know. But I wonder if there's a connection can be made there, and you could promote La Liga to Spanish-speaking American people.
Yeah, it's possible. I guess we'll have to wait and see what people say. So that could be a two-pronged
attack, right? You can like go after English-speaking people, go after Spanish-speaking people. You're welcome, La Liga, for the free advice.
I'm sure they're listening, and we'll process all that. Report back.
Anything else to add on Zach's question?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, we'll just say if you would like to ask us a question.
Actually, yeah, I do have something to add. I would say this.
Taylor's perked up.
I will, because like we do our weekend reviews, and if you go back and listen, a couple people have pointed out not much La Liga in there, and I think this is part of that.
It's hard to find.
It's hard to find. You can only watch replays, and I do think I'll speak for myself and say, like, yes, I could probably name you 2/3 of the current La Liga table, and before people react, it's harder than you think to name 20 teams. But I couldn't tell you a lot about a lot of those teams. Like, they're Basque, right? Or like I can give you those specific things, but I can't tell you much more than that. So I'll be honest and say when I look if I can't watch the games, if I'm looking at weekend review, I'll look at like the 3 big teams and see what they did.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll look at some other ones if there was a surprise result, or if someone has told me there's a surprise result. But even like you and me who watch soccer all the time, I don't feel that confident in my knowledge of a La Liga team to speak about them with the confidence that I would say I have about Crystal Palace or somebody like that.
No, because you end up watching more Crystal Palace than
There you go.
probably Atletico Madrid, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also Crystal Palace are fun to watch. Not
is
saying that anybody isn't, but that's maybe a bad example.
Speaking of fun to watch,
Yeah.
here's a big thing that Final Third, at Final Third with the I in third missing, if you're looking for him on Twitter, points out a lot. The colour of the broadcast of the Premier League.
Yeah.
When you look at a Premier League broadcast, one of the reasons Ty
You are not wrong
speculates
here.
it's popular around the world is that the colour pops. It's a lot of very
Sure does.
bright colours because of the way that it is filmed is the wrong word, but the way it is broadcast.
Shot, yeah.
If you look at a La Liga or even a Serie A broadcast, it's a lot of kind of duller colours for whatever reason. I think that's a big thing that they could change. They could just adjust however it is that they're transmitting this game, whatever cameras they're using, whatever colour contrast there is. I don't know the technical terms clearly. I think that there's a way to make La Liga pop on the screen a little bit more.
I wouldn't have been able to articulate this without you saying that, but there are times when I will watch Serie A and I feel like the broadcast is stuck in the 90s, like almost like as a metaphor for the significance of Serie A a little bit,
yeah.
right? Like it just feels like these are colors that you would have expected, like the range of colors. It is dulled is the wrong word, but it's not. You don't have that like the vibrant, bright green.
Vibrant, yeah. Vibrant is what you want. It's like the grass looks like it's been painted in England, right? Maybe it's just because it rains a lot, but it's also because of the way that the broadcast is done. The other thing is, if you think about Premier League, one of the more enjoyable things is when the announcers are at the game. There's definitely more energy in what they're doing, right? A lot of the La Liga stuff you get is done on a monitor. You don't get the energy.
Yeah.
It would need a broadcast network to send people to Spain, right? And then they could produce pieces about the local teams that they're going to, and you just get more energy in the broadcast. There's another free tip for La Liga.
Free tip for La Liga. Beautiful.
If you would like to ask us a question and get a very long answer, if we do it like we did today, the URL is totalsoccershow.com/questions. totalsoccershow.com/questions. If you're a supporter of the show, if you've joined the Scouting Network at $10 a month or more, we guarantee to answer one listener question per month.
But if you join the scouting, if you choose to support the show at $5 a month or more, then you're assigned a player to scout.
Yes, you are. Or you can be part of the Talent Spotter Network, where we invite you to recommend players to scout. That's a new one.
Sir.
That's a new one. I gather we have some scouting reports to read because I have a piece of paper with bullet points on it over here.
Yeah. Do you gather that because you have the names in front of you?
I was buying time on it.
Yes, we do. First up, Braden Elliott scouting Chris Richards, the 18-year-old American center back for Bayern Munich's U19s.
Woohoo.
After playing with the first team, U19 first team, through preseason, Richards started the last 3 games for Bayern's U19s. They picked up a 3-1 victory over Ingolstadt, a 1-0 clean sheet against Frankfurt, and a 2-0 loss to Kaiserslautern. The team is currently top of the U19 Bundesliga table after 4 games.
Can I add a correction? He really did play with the first team in preseason.
I realized that as soon as I said it, that I was like, oh, no, wait, that was the first team.
But mostly because I think they were touring the United States. It was a little bit like, we might as well
we'll see what you can do.
We might as well let him play. So for those who don't know, I don't know if this was in the report, but Chris Richards is an FC Dallas player who was part of the FC Dallas Bayern Munich link-up, is spending the season on loan with Bayern Munich and playing for their U19s. This is a big deal. Let's keep an eye on Chris Richards. Thank you, Braden, for that.
I think Braden will be doing just that.
Yeah. Zane Ziedler is scouting Manny Perez, the 19-year-old American right midfielder for NC State. Zane says Manny Perez started for NC State in the opening game of the season and made himself useful. NC State attacked down Perez's side, and that paid dividends when he used his size and pace to first body off a defender and then get to the end line before centering for NC State's second goal, which would prove the winner as they beat USC Upstate 2-1.
USC Upstate?
Is that a joke?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's one of their like satellite campuses. I don't know how this works.
I feel like that's like maybe a dig at the USC campus. It can't be called USC Upstate, can it?
I don't know, but
Maybe
I also
it is.
would have a hard time believing USC lost their opener. So I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Steve Renard scouting Yuri Tielemans, the 21-year-old Belgian midfielder for Monaco. Tielemans started in Monaco's season-opening 3-1 win over Nantes and their ensuing 0-0 draw with Lille. He was deployed as one of the 2 in a 4-2-3-1 and is now wearing the number 8 as opposed to the number 17. Moving on up by moving on down.
Yeah, that's a classic example of probably he wanted the 8. He settled for 17 because 1 plus 7. Now he's got the 8. So this is good news for Tielemans.
And Steve is taking this as a sign of Tielemans' intent to become more of an attacking player as opposed to a box-to-box scrapper. That said, isn't a number 8 like literally the box-to-box midfielder?
Yes.
So, So we'll see what happens.
Either way, Yuri Tillemans can do it all.
Basically, I think Steve's frustration is that when he watches highlights, like Yuri Tillemans isn't a highlight player. He's like a role player who like does his job but doesn't maybe make the highlight reel every time.
That makes sense to me. Willie Reed is scouting Jesus Vallejo, the 21-year-old Spanish centre-back for Real Madrid. Willie says, the song remains the same for Vallejo. Every time he steps onto the pitch, it seems it's only a matter of time before he becomes Rafael Varane's centre-back partner. However, every time he steps onto a practice field, he leaves with a muscle injury, which usually keeps him out for 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, Willie attached like a report of all of his many injuries, Jesus's. There are many, we'll put it that way. No. Kevin Downs scouting Trevor Zwetsloot, 18-year-old New Zealand defensive midfielder for Werder Bremen 2, formerly eligible for the United States. It was Trevor time in the OFC U20 final, as Trevor finished off a move in the 50th minute to propel New Zealand past Tahiti for the title, thereby qualifying New Zealand for the U20 World Cup. He now returns to Bremen 2, who are entering their 5th week of the season. Kevin isn't sure how that will play out because playing for the U20s meant he missed preseason and the start of the season for Bremen 2, but he does want to keep scouting Trevor for the time being. We had offered him the opportunity to change if he wanted.
So sticking with Trevor, because Trevor time.
He wants everyone to know what's going on with New Zealand.
Todd Ito is scouting Takafusa Kubo, the 17-year-old Japanese attacker on loan at Yokohama FC Marinos from FC Tokyo. Takafusa Kubo started for Yokohama Marinos in their 2-0 victory over Andres Iniesta and Vissel Kobe. Kubo scored the first goal of the game, thus becoming the second youngest scorer ever in a J-League match. He picked up the ball in his own half, drove forward, played it wide, got it back at the top of the box, and cleanly finished with his left foot. Go on, Kubo.
Go on, Kubo. Ben Langevin scouting Curtis Jones, 17-year-old English midfielder for Liverpool's U23s.
Next, Steven Gerrard.
We shall see. Curtis Jones did not travel with the senior team during their preseason tour, but Klopp has still had positive things to say about the youngster, likening his progress to Ben Woodburn and indicating the youngster has a definite future at Anfield.
Ben Radu is scouting Enes Unal, the 21-year-old Turkish striker for ... Enes Unal has been sent on loan to the newly promoted Real Valladolid. He started in their match against Barcelona. I think I was confused about this in the weekend review. With 69 minutes and very little offensive production.
All right, we've got our update. Logan Jurgens scouting Ismaila Sarr, the 20-year-old Senegalese attacker for Rennes. After playing every minute at the World Cup with Senegal, Sarr was the subject of several bids this summer, according to his agent. However, he reportedly turned them down, according to his agent, preferring to see out his contract, which expires in 2021, according to his agent. In Sunday's match against
Rockwell editorializing it.
In Sunday's match against Marseille, coach Sabri Lamouchi, I'm sure I pronounced that one, moved Sarr from right wing and played him as the lone forward. Sabri was rewarded in the 31st minute as Sarr used his speed and tumbling skills to draw a penalty. Then in the 46th, Sarr scored a goal of his own as Pele, the Marseille goalkeeper, dropped the ball at the foot of Sarr, who buried it in the back of the net from 2 yards out. Pele's everywhere love people scoring goals.
I'm still laughing at tumbling skills. Tyler Smith is scouting Ian Hoffman, the 16-year-old German-American midfielder for Karlsruhe U19s. Tyler says at the end of the 2017-18 season, Hoffman was promoted from the U17s to the U19s. Since being promoted, he has started each of their first 4 games of the season for the U19s. Hoffman's consistent minutes are an encouraging sign since he is the only 16-year-old in the U19 squad.
Go on, Ian.
Yeah, going up an age group. Go
yeah.
on, so once again, if you would like to join the Scouting Network, it is TotalSoccerShow.com/join. If you are waiting for your player, please email me, Daryl@TotalSoccerShow.com. I'll get the assignment to you. I have about 10 people that have emailed me, and it's been a week or so and they're still waiting on me. If you're listening, I promise I will get it to you this week. I'm doing more assignments this week, I promise. I've fallen behind, but I'll get on top of it.
That was a promise. We don't break promises here, Daryl.
We don't, no. We don't. We under promise, over deliver.
I think.
Yeah, that's what we drive.
Negatives confuse me, so there we go.
What we can promise is that we'll be back tomorrow with another Total Soccer show, and we'll be talking about what we hope to see on that US men's national team roster for the games against Mexico and Brazil. 2 big games coming up. Friendlies, but big games nonetheless. So you and I will meet here tomorrow to do that. Tonight, we're off to our nation's capital.
We're going to DC United's game against Philadelphia Union at Audi Field. We had a few people reach out to confirm that that was in fact what we were doing. We are, and if you're in the area, if you're going to be at the game, send us a tweet. Maybe we can hang out for a bit.
Yeah, how are we going to organise this? I guess we'll plan this off air.
I believe I just planned it right there. Send us a tweet. We'll be around. I mean, it's dependent on it's the afternoon right now here in Richmond. We have to go up 95, which can be an hour-and-a-half journey, or it could be a 7-hour journey. So I don't want to say like we'll definitely be here at this time because we just don't know.
So maybe come meet us just north of Fredericksburg at like 8:15.
There we go. Perfect.
Because that could be what's happening.
How I loathe 95.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow.